Well, we grew up right on Main Street, Ocean Drive, and back then it was a two-lane road, so there wasn't a lot of traffic, particularly after Labor Day weekend. It was very quiet, and it gave my brother and I an opportunity to play stickball on the street, and we enjoy, the quiet time for this area, which was after Labor Day. We didn't have a lot. We rented an apartment, and but we had a nice. My dad had a nice TV, and he had a nice car. So I guess those were some things that he was proud of. He was proud of his car and his TV. But other than that, we lived a simple life. I had a brother, David, and we did what kids normally do. We just played with our Tonka trucks and enjoyed living here at the beach. My dad was from Camden, South Carolina. Actually, he says he's from Cassett. He was from Cassett, South Carolina. And of course, he and Donald Holland, who was in the state senate with my dad for many years, grew up on neighboring farms in Cassett, South Carolina. I can recall going to Columbia, and Senator Holland would always say, my dear friend, my other senator from Cassett, South Carolina, talking about my dad. But he grew up in Cassett, and they lived on a family farm. He had 6 sisters and 1 older brother. His older brother was in the Marines, and John was his name. He migrated to North Myrtle Beach and worked at a bouncer here at a famous place where people came and shag dance called the Pad. So my dad decided he wanted to come to the beach. There wasn't a lot going on in Cassett. His friends made fun of him. They always said they were going to stay at home and work their family farms, and they called him Dickie at the time. Said Dickie's going to go down to the beach and get some sand in his shoes, and he's going to go broke and come back home. So that was always a funny story that he liked to tell when he left town. And actually, my Uncle Bobby Jones, he of course was our highway commissioner in this area for many years. His sister married my dad's sister Mary, and Uncle Bobby picked my dad up at the crossroads in Cassett and carried him down Highway number 1 to Bethune, and where he got on Highway number 9. And Uncle Bobby likes to tell the story about it. He said, the last time I saw Dickie was he had him a little small suitcase in his hand, and he was putting his thumb out to hitchhike to the beach. And there he went. Next thing I knew, he'd bought a vacation or a rental company, and off he went. So anyway, he grew up in Cassett on a family farm, strong family values with his mom and dad, and some sad stories, but some good stories. They loved each other and they worked hard. Of course, to my dad, they always accused him of not working. He'd always supposed to be out on the farm riding his tractor. They'd catch him off sitting in a tree reading a book. He loved to read. And so he's taken that education that hopefully that he learned by not working the field like he was supposed to, and going out on the side and reading his book, and hopefully was able to use that over the years and experience that he gained through reading, knowledge he gained through reading, allowed him hopefully to do some things that he's done along the way. But yeah, he hitchhiked, he made it here, he's done well. He's got a lot of funny stories. I know when you talk to him, he'll be able to tell you about the many times that he picked on his sisters. He loves to pick at people, and he certainly learned that from picking at his sisters. And of course, they picked back at him too. And you have to get him to tell you about the time where one of his sisters stole the swing from him, and then he had to go make sure that she didn't do that to him again. I'm sure he'll be glad to tell you that story. But he had, a lot of good memories, some sad. His dad, was, they were trying to fix the family well and pulling the well post out of the ground, and unfortunately hit the power line above, and his dad walked on the steps there and died in front of him and his brother, which was a sad thing and a lasting memory on my dad. But something that gave him impetus to try to use that to move forward and try to make his dad proud, even though he wasn't there to see him in person. He was there in memory, and so that was one sad thing that happened along the way, but it was part of his life growing up. Well, I moved back in 1988. I graduated high school in 1980, went to Presbyterian College and graduated in 1984, and then went to University of South Carolina and graduated in 1986. I always knew that I wanted to come back and take what my dad had started in business here and try to make it better. And so in 1986, I moved back for a short period of time, and I knew then it just wasn't quite the right time. And so, you know, took what little bit of education that I had and moved to Columbia and went to work there for Caldwell Banker, Tom Jenkins Real Estate, and also later went to work for a young man who's a mentor of mine today named Curtis Dixon. He had a CPA firm there called Dixon and Company. So I worked there back in Columbia for a couple of years, and you know, I always felt the desire to come back home. It was something that I wanted to do. I talked with Curtis about it. I was honest with him, and he helped guide me. He said, you know, if you want to go back to work at the beach, you ought to go follow your heart and go for it. I know he knew it would make my dad proud. It was something that I wanted to make him proud and work hard for him. And but it was also something that I wanted to do. And so when I got back here in March of 1990, my dad had been involved in politics for many years. His business was not doing that well. And sometimes business and politics don't go well together, particularly where he was running the business as a sole proprietor. And being at the head of the table, so to speak, it was hard for him to do both and do it well. So in his interest was politics, and that was his job was to do what he's always done best: call people back, focus on their needs, and help solve their problems, one person at a time. So when I moved back here, the business was not doing as well as as he would like or I would like. And the goal at that time was to just get out there and work hard. And we have so many wonderful homeowners that we work for in this business. And we went out, and I went out personally and just shook hands, talked to people, walked up and down the street and asked them for their business. I was a young guy at the time. I guess I'm probably 21, 23 years old at the time, going out there asking people for business, and they didn't. It was hard to gain their trust, but we had a few willing participants that came over and decided to do business with us, and those folks are still with us today. So it's a tribute to our business and the efforts that we've put in over the past 23 or so years trying to continue to move our business forward. A brother, David, who's 2 years younger than I am, and a sister, Angela, who's 16 years younger. And as we say in North Myrtle Beach and the North Strand area here, everybody's welcome. So we're glad to have Angela, welcomed her to the family, and certainly Angela's done very well. She's an attorney now and has her own practice in the Greenville area. And David has been a golf pro at the same golf course for over 10 years and outside of Atlanta, Georgia, in a small town called Hiram. It's called Creekside Country Club. So David is a lot like, the Elliott family. We're hardworking people. We're loyal and dedicated, and we stick to what we start, and we don't ever give up. And of course, I know Angela has some of those same traits, and will do extremely well in business, and very proud of her and our brother David. Well, back in the early, I guess, 70s, as I mentioned earlier, after Labor Day, not a lot of business in town. people packed up their houses. There weren't a lot of condos at that time, so they boarded up their houses and packed up and went back home. And so local business people, my dad and Brian Floyd, Charlie Byers, and many other local business people, Cecil Brandon, got together around the breakfast table and decided we needed to do something a little bit extra other than just have beach rentals and a few houses that we have here along the beach and a few motels that were in Myrtle Beach at the time. And so they came together to form a group called Myrtle Beach Golf Holiday. That group still exists today, and there have been, at that time, there may have been about 5 or 6 courses in the area to now, at one time, there were over 100 courses in the Myrtle Beach, Grand Strand area. Golf is still thriving, doing well, but all because of the efforts of some business people that got together many years ago to try to grow the golf industry in this area and keep it going and moving forward. So this is where we make our living, and this is where we started the business, but the focus is for our vacation rental business it is our main area of emphasis. But we have, over the past few years, made decisions, business decisions, to grow out into other areas, Shore Drive, for example, and also into the Myrtle Beach area. But North Myrtle Beach is home. It always will be, and we don't want to leave the place that we started. And this is certainly our area of emphasis, and we want to continue to do well here. Madison and Caroline. Madison's 14 and Caroline's 12. And my brother David has a daughter named Blair, and Angela does not have any children at this point. Well, my mom is more of the social person of the family. My dad is more introverted and quiet, and so she was an excellent. They made a good choice. Both made good choices, and he has complimented her over the years, and she has complimented him, and they've worked very well together. She's definitely been my dad's best asset when it comes to politics, and she's been a big supporter of his, and has been the rock behind the family. She's also raised the family as he was involved in politics over the years. My mom is a person that helped, get us in school, make sure we had a good meal at night, and took care of us. So, as they always say, for every good man there's a good woman. For every good woman there's a good man. And my mom certainly exemplifies that. We've had a lot of fun over the years. We've had many wonderful vacations. Most of the time we get in the car, and we're not like most people do. They plan their vacation. We just get in the car and say we're going north, south, east, west. Can't go west because we end up in the water. So we'd always generally go south and go down to Florida and just roam around. We didn't have any, as I said, we didn't have any particular plan. We've had a lot of fun. We've seen a lot of places. We've got so many wonderful memories. For example, Alligator Alley down in Florida. We ended up there one time and ended up in a Indian village there fishing off the side of the road there with some natives, and going back and cooking dinner and meeting all kind of different people along the way. So we've had a lot of fun stories and a lot of fun. We've rented RVs in the past and have been all over the place in the RVs and camped out in a lot of spots and just traveled all about. Of course, he ran for he'd been on city council in the 60s, and he was on county council in the 70s. And around 1980, he ran for the state senate and ran against a local person that had been in office, was well liked, and spent a lot of money on that campaign. And I can remember the next morning after the campaign was over, he sitting in the preacher's bench at the house, and everybody was disappointed and upset, and and really heartbroken. But he seemed to not worry about it. He took it in stride. He said it was okay not to worry about it. Let's go back to work and let's get busy, and we'll put that one behind us and move on. So, you know, it says a lot about what happens when people have things that don't always go their way in life. You know, you put it behind you and you move on to the next game and get ready for that. And so I always remember that. We got a lot of, you know, what more important, you remember what you remember about politics is the people that you meet and the homes that you go in, the dinners that you eat, and just the things that, when you're in politics, the campaign part of it, putting up signs in the middle of the night, coming in at daylight, and then going out the next day, and all your signs you put up are gone. Some of that, but you know, politics is a game, and sometimes you play the sign wars. But those are some stories you remember. We've met a lot of people, but you find out real quick that people are just people. Doesn't matter if they're in elected office or not. And it seems like to me the politicians that have always been the best politicians are the ones that you meet are just real people, and they come across as concerned citizens and caring people. And we've met a lot of political folks across the years, both Republican and Democrat, and we've met a lot of his constituents and people that working everyday American citizens that are just trying to get by and enjoy the benefits of what America provides to them. You learn very quickly in politics that you don't, as they say, you don't judge a book by its cover. And the people that you meet, you don't judge them by the car that they drive or the house they live in. And there's a lot of character in people. And if you listen to them and try to find a way to help them from a political perspective if they have a need, you know, there's a lot of goodwill out there. People will reciprocate that back to you. And in the district like my dad had, you know, there were different needs of people. And I will give my dad credit, great credit, because over the years he did a fantastic job of listening to people. Didn't matter who you were, he was always going to try to help. He operated from a position of, how can I help you? What can we do? And government is in your way. What can we do to help government get out of the way so you can enjoy your life, do your business, work your farm, get Social Security, or whatever it was that you needed from the standpoint of government. My dad was not a big disciplinarian. He let my mom do the daily task of whipping me with a vacuum cleaner, Electrolux to be exact, with the big attachment on the end. So when I was in trouble, I got the Electrolux. And generally I would run. So my mom would always say, you can run if you want to, but I'm going to catch you. So about 9 o'clock at night when I'm trying to go to sleep, by that time the vacuum cleaner comes in, and she always would act like she's vacuuming my room in the middle of the night. So then she'd pop you with that and say, I told you I was going to get you. But yeah, my dad, I can only remember getting it from him a few times over the years, not a lot. But when he did get you, he would give you the left, right. He has a boxing background, and so he would let you know he meant business when he was mad. I can remember one time, I always thought at one time I wanted to be a greenskeeper on a golf course. So Kerry Stoffel, who was a local friend, he used to work the golf cart at night putting in the sprinklers. So I decided I would open up the window that night and stuff my bed full of pillows, make it look like I was there, and go run out on the golf course and ride with Kerry and put sprinklers up. So I came home about 10 o'clock that night. My dad was waiting on me. And I do remember that spanking. That was a good one. So he did let you know when he was upset, and he would he would give you a memorable experience when he did spank, and so he was able to change your way of thinking, and he did a good job with that. Well, mom's always been the person to go out and talk to people, never met a stranger. So she was very active when it came to politics and the campaigns and getting out and meeting people. And she would always find out who people were, what their names were, what they did, experiences they had, and then bring those folks over to introduce to my dad. And that was something, and is something still today that she does a great job with. Her never meeting a stranger mentality and not being afraid to go talk to anybody in any crowd has been an asset that my mom has and certainly has benefited my dad from a political perspective. Several years ago, we had the opportunity to go to Parsippany, New Jersey, to negotiate a deal with Better Homes and Gardens for a real estate franchise. And when we walked in, my dad was with us, and George, who I'm sure you may have on video, George was with us, and myself. And they asked us to give a little explanation about ourselves, our company, background, our value proposition. And I think when we walked in, they thought that we were from South Carolina, slow talking, maybe some slow thinking people, but they quickly found out that our family, from a business perspective, were hard-nosed business people. We were fair and honest, and we cared about doing things the right way, having high integrity, people that you can trust. But we negotiated with them a hard deal. And of course, it was a good marriage for Better Homes and Gardens. It was a good marriage for Elliott Realty. And but we walked out with a deal, and my dad walked out gaining, and we walked out gaining their respect. And it was a good experience, I think, for both. And so sometimes people that you meet in the South, maybe they talk slow, but they think fast. My dad received the Order of the Palmetto from Governor Haley, and one of the things that was most memorable to that to me is Jim Melton came to him. Jim has worked in the Senate for over 30 years, and he said to me that day, he said, "Wow, I've never seen a sitting governor come in when the Senate was in session like that." And that is a great tribute to your dad. Our governor was Nikki Haley, and she's a Republican. My dad has been a lifelong Democrat. And so for her to come in and do that meant a lot. It was a very emotional moment for our family, and it was a great opportunity for us to be there with him for that special day, to celebrate his many years of service, and to have him be recognized by our governor with the Order of the Palmetto, the highest civilian honor that a citizen can get. Was a very special moment, and one that we'll never forget. And even, being up there that last week or two with my dad and having the opportunity to go back in the back room in the Senate and visit with the senators and chat with them, to watch my dad, how he operated behind the scenes. He's really a funny guy. My cousin George, who has been a dear friend of our family for many years, back about 1992 when Dad was running against Senator Carmichael, we hired some fellows that helped us here that had a produce stand here. His name was Ardell Watts. Well, Ardell had a truck, so we would always load his truck up with signs and carry him up to Dillon and get signs put up all around the county. Well, Ardell brought a friend that day. His name was George too. So if you can imagine, Ardell sitting in the truck with his Levi Garrett chewing tobacco in his mouth, and George sitting on the other side of the truck, not George that we know, our cousin. George sitting on the other side of the truck, and then here comes Big George. We call him Big George. Big George in the middle of the truck. So we piled the truck up with a bunch of campaign signs, and we put Ardell, George, and Big George in the middle. Off they go down the highway. Well, prior to them going down the highway, Ardell looked over at George and he said, "George, we can't have this. We got 2 Georges in this car. What do you want to call this one?" The other George looked at Ardell and said, "Ardell, I think we'll call him Roy." So off they go, Roy, George, and Ardell down the highway to put up campaign signs. He really did never play party politics, and he just went about his business trying to help people. And he was a conservative business person, and people like that. You know, government needs some more conservative business people, and he represented. That's what he represented. Well, you know, I'm really obviously very proud of my dad, and I worked for a long time to please him, as I said earlier, and I gave it all. I gave it all, and he never really gave me a lot of emotion back, and I just kept trying and trying and trying to please him, and of course my mom too. But now here we are today. He's 79 and I'm 51 years old, and the role has reversed, and it's great to see him be proud of me and the things that I've done and actually say it. And of course the feeling is mutual with myself. So, you know, things change and roles reverse, but people and their values stay the same. And my dad has represented trust, integrity, and he has always tried to live his life doing the right thing, and I respect him for that.